your mail, Abby. Just click it. Your email here. Click it. Okay, you just want to register here. Use the link. Just go to your file. Look, click on the one you Hello, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Can you hear? If you can hear, just raise your hand.
Go inside.
Good afternoon.
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
I hear you.
Right, that's great. So let's welcome Pharmacist Olupale to start the program.
I can hear you.
Great, thank you.
Hello, good afternoon, distinguished colleagues.
Good afternoon.
I warmly welcome everybody to this very, very serious discourse on the topic of the day. We are talking about legalizing cannabis in Nigeria. Is it to be or not to be? What are the merits and the demerits? A lot of countries also are doing something about this very subject matter. There are fears in various quarters, concerns, of course, which are quite germane. And also, there are so many good things that have been found about this particular product, which has been around for ages. Since the Stone Age, when it was initially being used as a, as a fiber by the Asians, that's the Japanese and the Chinese. And we just felt as pharmacists, the experts on drugs, we should lead the discourse on this very matter so that when the policy are being formed, we shall take the driver's seat. And to discuss this very critical topic, we have gotten some real experts, some erudite speakers who are experts in their own various rights. We have the legal luminary in the house, we have the professors, and we have the academicians, just name it. So let us be rest assured that there is going to be a big benefit to every partaker of this program today. I should do a quick recognition. We have some very highly distinguished colleagues in the house, and it's only proper that I quickly recognize a few of them. I can see my one of my good, great mentor, the barrister, Chiedu Modi, Esquire, a pharmacist cum lawyer, who is the immediate past chairman board of fellow of our great society, PSN, is well seated to begin to dissect the subject matter. We also have here the erudite professor, the pharmacologist from the great Uniben, Professor Ray Ozolua. I greet you, sir. Also, we have in the house pharmacist Professor N.N. Wanang, the immediate past scribe of the WAPC. So these are the three gentlemen that will be leading the discussion, but beyond them, we have so many other people here. We have the national chairman of the Association of Professors of Nigeria, ACPN, pharmacist Sam Adekola here seated, one of the proponents of this discussion. We also have the national treasurer of PSN, who just breezed into the country, pharmacist Gafar Made, because he wanted to be part of this discourse. You are welcome, my brother. We have retired but not tired, Dr. Moyosori Adejumo, the immediate past director of pharmaceutical services of Lagos State Ministry of Health. I can cite Chief Adagazu. Yes, Chief Adagazu. He used to be the director of Food and Drug, Federal Ministry of Health. I greet you, Chief. Also, we have pharmacist Olawumi Peters. That's our great pharmacist at the Psychiatric Hospital, Yaba. When you are talking about cannabis, I'm sure she's well versed and she's well used to things like this. I can see so many people that the time might not permit me to actually name. Yes, I'm also aware that our board of fellow chairman, Professor Femi Oyewo, is also in the house. Yes, at least we have a good coverage. There are a lot of people here seated, and like I said, there is not going to be a dull moment. Everybody invited are ready. They are good to go, and we are set. We must commend the board of Pharmacists Affairs, who have done a lot of work to put this program together. Kudos to you guys, and I think that's the way to go. We must talk, we must dialogue. There is a lot of benefits in jaw than fight. And this is an opportunity we've been provided with to talk on every angle of this matter. And then we should come to a conclusion, more or less. This is where we want to go. This is how we want to go. I believe at the end of the day, a lot of takeaway will be there for each and every participant on this forum. So I welcome you all, and let's sit back and enjoy the flow of this program. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Dream a new horizon, a new zeal for a brighter vision. There's a gift that mustn't perish. There's a choice to live and flourish. This dream will enrich a nation from generation to generation. Protogene, the living tonic. No doubt this one is authentic. Good health and vitality for each life and every family. Protogene, the living dream. Oh yes. Won't you join the believers team? Oh yes. One more at last. The better thing women begin the word for don't land. Ferritogene, the gift where Chineke God take bless us. Ferritogene na for mental and physical energy. And your brain and your body go day well. Ferritogene there for tonic and capsule. And a Bond Chemical Industries Limited, the maker of Bonabi, the maker.
Ferritogene, a tonic for every generation.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I warmly welcome our guest speakers and other participants on this Zoom call this evening. This evening, we have 3 speakers who are eminently qualified to discuss the topic in view. I am Titilayo Onedo, and anchoring this introduction session with me is Dr. Durowaye. I will be introducing Professor Ray Ozolua. Professor Ray Ozolua studied pharmacy at the University of Benin. In the university, he was a serial winner of awards and prizes, some of which include the UAC of Nigeria Undergraduate Scholarship, University of Benin Undergraduate Scholarship, Chief Andrew Egbo's Prize for Best Student in Forensic Pharmacy, Dean's Prize for the Best Graduating Students in the School of Pharmacy, Professor Please, can we mute our mic if we are not the one talking? Thank you. And he also won the Provost Prize for the Best Overall Graduating Students in the College of Health Sciences. He undertook the mandatory internship program of the Pharmacists Council of Nigeria at the University of Benin Teaching Hospital, and he won prizes, which include the Best Overall Intern for the year, with a special recognition for pharmaceutical formulation that saved the hospital a huge sum of money. He took part in the National Youth Service Program at the Primary Health Department of Iseyin Local Government Council, Oyo State. At Iseyin, he was also the chairman of Association of Corps Members. He started his career in academics as a graduate assistant in the Department of Pharmacology and Toxicology, where he also studied for the MSc and PhD degrees. He rose through the ranks to become a professor in October 2011. Professor Ozolua has held many positions in University of Benin, which include Assistant Dean, Faculty of Pharmacy, Acting Head of Department of Pharmacy, Pharmacology and Toxicology, and head of Department of Pharmacology and Toxicology. He has also served the university in several capacities, including member Central Examination Committee, Senate representative in the Work and Study Program Committee. He was a hall warden to the IBIAM Hall. Also, he served as a monitoring and evaluation officer. He was also an evaluation officer in the Science and Technology Education Post-Basic Step B. He also served as a member of the University of Benin Biomedical Research Committee. Professor Ray Ozolua served on the procurement, installation, service, maintenance, and use of scientific equipment. And also, he was a representative of the postgraduate school board in the university. Professor Ozolua has served as external examiner at undergraduate and postgraduate levels to several universities, some of which are University of Lagos, University of Ibadan, Obafemi Awolowo University, University of Nigeria, University of Port Harcourt, Ahmadu Bello University, University of Ilorin, and University of Maiduguri. He is also a regular professor, professorial rank assessor to several Nigerian universities. He has mentored many masters and PhD graduates, some of who are now professors in their own rights. He's almost on yearly basis given Best Lecturer Award by students of pharmacy, medicine, and dentistry. He's a regular keynote address speaker at various pharmaceutical gatherings. He has served as a member of accreditation panel of Nigerian University Commission, NUC, and Pharmacists Council of Nigeria.
Hello.
Can we mute our microphone, please? Can
Hello?
we mute our microphone, please?
Please,
Let's just mute everybody.
We are not speaking. So sorry for the interference. Professor Ozolua has served as consultant, Federal Ministry of Health for transforming health systems, Medical Sciences for Health, United States Agency for International Development, among others. He was actively involved in the development of the National Policy of Pharmacovigilance, Standard Treatment Guidelines, and the Essential Medicine List of the Federal Ministry of Health. His current area of research includes evaluation of drugs and herbal products for hypertensive, for antihypertensive, anti-asthmatic, and neuropharmacological properties and safety. He's a member of many professional and learned societies, such as Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, Association of Pharmacists in Academia, and West African Society for Pharmacology. His hobbies include listening to music and playing badminton. He's married and is blessed with children. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Professor Ray Ozolua.
Professor Ray, you are welcome.
I hand
Only
over
that
to...
we cannot see your screen, we cannot see your image.
You guys will not be like, I was this guy trying.
Hand over to Dr. Durowaye.
It's even better for me. You're welcome, sir.
Dr. Durowaye, over to you, please.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am. All right, you're welcome, everybody, to this evening session. It's a unique day. Because of time, I wish I would just give an abridged version of, the presentation on Professor Noel Nenman Nandbal Wanang. Okay, so in short, let me just say Professor Noel Wanang. All right. Professor Wanang is a native of Akwanga in Nasarawa State. He was born on the 25th of December 1968 to Mr. and Mrs. Joseph Bisan Wanang. He completed his secondary school education at the government secondary school function in 1984. He then proceeded to his A-levels in 1986 and finished from the prestigious School of Preliminary Studies in Kefi, Nasarawa State, where he came out as best in his course. He went further to obtain his Bachelor of Pharmacy degree in 1992. He proceeded again for his master's degree in pharmacology in 1998, where he finished from the Usman Danfodio University in Sokoto. Professor Wanang kept on, pursued his PhD degree. He enrolled with it at the Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. He then went ahead, to finish the program. Of course, he actually finished in record time in 2002. And although the degree was awarded in 2004 due to an internal strike. Okay, so to make him a complete scientist, that is, after his doctorate, he went back to the university for an MSc in biochemistry, and he graduated in 2006. Thereafter, he pursued a specialty in clinical pharmacy, which earned him a fellowship of the West African Postgraduate College of Pharmacists in 2008. He was rated amongst the top in his class, and thus he was immediately given an offer as lecturer and resource person, even with the college. He's a man of intense stamina. He started his working career as an intern pharmacist at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital in 1992. He proceeded to Kano State for the one-year mandatory NYSC, and then because of his diligence and commitment to duty, he was made the pharmacist in charge of the NYSC orientation camp. He ventured into industrial practice from 1994 down to 2002 in the sales and marketing unit of Morrison Industries PLC, and later worked with Fitson Drugs Limited, where he rose to the position of depot/regional manager before he veered fully into academics, starting off with the Faculty of Medicine, Bayero University, Kano. His gravitation from the industry to the academia was largely to satisfy his appetite for research, and consequent upon which he relocated to the Faculty of Pharmaceutical Sciences, University of Jos, where he actually obtained his pharmacy degree, and he did this in 2005. So as a scientist and scholar, he has traveled far and wide, presented over 80 scientific papers at conferences, and published over 80 papers in journals of international repute. This has earned him visiting an adjunct professorship to some universities within and outside the country. His PhD thesis made out 6 publications, out of which he became a classic and found a place among the top 20 most cited references in world pharmacology journals. This also earned him invitation to Montreal, Canada, the USA, and other countries to present his findings before world-acclaimed scientists and academics. He has successfully supervised and graduated 8 MSc students, over 25 fellowship, postdoctoral students, and is currently supervising 6 postgraduates at the MSc and PhD levels, including 10 fellowship students. Professor N.N. Wanang has held positions of responsibility at the Bayero University and the University of Jos, Nigeria, which include serving on various Senate committees and various faculty committees of both universities from 2000 to 2015. He was the head of the department pharmacognosy and later the Deputy Dean of Faculty of Pharmaceutical Sciences, University of Jos, Nigeria. He is also the Director General for the General Studies, University of Jos. He is the immediate past secretary of the Secretary General of the West African Postgraduate College of Pharmacists. He is a sticker to time He's also governed by meticulous attention to details, virtues that have brought changes to the university and also the West African Postgraduate College. He is a very active member of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, also a member of the International Brain Research Organization, International Society of Neurochemistry, and World Society of Academics. Because of his academic and research prose, he was nominated under His Excellency, the late President Umar Musa Yar'Adua, as member, National Committee on the Research and Application of Stem Cell Transplantation Technology in Nigeria. Again, he was the youngest member of the Presidential Commission. He was a member of Special Committee on Health, Olusegun Obasanjo Presidential Library, member ad hoc committee on Pharmacy Technicians Training and Practice Nigeria with the PCN, member Therapeutics Use Exemption Committee Nigeria, and a subcommittee of World Anti-Doping Agency. Secretary, Education Committee, Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria. He has served in various capacities, notably as National Vice Chairman, press editor of National Association of Pharmacists in Academia, as Secretary, Academic Staff Union of Universities in University of Jos. In recognition of his contribution in the society and in-depth concern for the environment, he was nominated as a member of the National Environmental Standards and Regulation Enforcement Agency, NISRA, the Green Corps. Okay, for his industry and commitment to the values of the academy, he has served as external examiner and assessor for professorship cadre to several universities. He has been variously conferred with awards locally and internationally, some of which include Most Disciplined, Most Outstanding Academic, Most Promising Star Researcher, Most Educated, West African Parliament, just to mention a few among many. A man of diverse interests, Noel Wanang also holds an LLB degree in law. He's a devout Catholic. He's a Knight of St. Mulumba. He's happily married to Vivian in Keruka, and they are also blessed with 3 children. His hobbies include reading, sports, and adventure. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming, as I present to you, Professor Noel Wanang, a mentor, an erudite academic with an array of superlative achievements, a man who, as a result, has brought honor to his name, honor to the University of Jos, and honor to all those who have associated with him. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Professor Wanang. You're most welcome, sir.
You are welcome, sir, to the podium.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you greatly.
Okay, so I introduced the third guest speaker on this call this evening, Pharmacist Chiedu Modi, Esquire. Pharmacist Chiedu Modi graduated from the Faculty of Pharmacy, University of Benin in the year 1976. In 1981, he graduated from the Faculty of Social Sciences with a postgraduate diploma in business management. He earned the Bachelor of Law degree from the University of Benin in 1998. He was called to the Nigerian bar in 1999. After internship and national service, he was employed by the defunct Nicholas Laboratories, Nigeria Limited, as a medical detailer in 1979. By 1984, when he resigned his appointment and opted for private practice, he had risen to management cadre in the company. In 1984, he founded Coca Pharmacy and Stores, a brand that is visible in the Nigerian community pharmacy practice. He was PAN's president, Uniben. As a young pharmacist, he occupied various executive positions at different times in Edo State PSN, CoFarm, and NAGPP, presently known as ACPN. He was a member of the Governing Council of the Pharmacists Council of Nigeria and was the chairman of the investigation panel of the Pharmacists Council of Nigeria. In year 2000, he was decorated with the Fellowship of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria. Currently, he is the chairman of the Law and Ethics Committee of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria. Pharmacist Chiedu Modi, Esquire, is a fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Management. He is the immediate past chairman of the Board of Fellow of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Pharmacist Chiedu Modi, Fellow of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria. You are welcome, sir.
You are welcome,
Thank you
sir.
so much. You're welcome, sir. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon one more time, everyone in the house. Can we hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Thank
Yes,
you
we can
very
hear
much.
you.
Yes,
So
we
this
can
time
hear you.
around, we are moving ahead, and let me start with protocol. Fellows of the PSN in the house, members of PSN Council, the chairman of technical groups and interest groups in the meeting this night, and colleagues, fellow of the Postgraduate College of Pharmacists, and the Friends of Pharmacists, ladies and gentlemen. Today's topic, legalizing cannabis in Nigeria, is a global subject that as professionals and scientists, we cannot take the back seats. Please, can you just mute your mic if you are not the one speaking, please? On point blank, laying it bare, where we bring up topical issues for collective engagement with the views of populating opinions that could be channeled towards solving or illuminating on the issues. Globally, cannabis had remained a prohibited plant or drug belonging to Part 4 schedule of dangerous drugs. Findings in the last decade have proved that components of cannabis have medicinal values, and its use could not have been considered as too dangerous, hence the need for rescheduling. In 2020, United Nations Convention on Narcotic Drugs voted for cannabis to be rescheduled as Part 1 drug, with countries taking adequate steps in ensuring the health of the public. WHO also has considered reclassification of cannabis, although official statements have not been released to that effect. What is cannabis? Cannabis refers to a group of 3 plants with psychoactive properties known as cannabis sativa, cannabis indica, and cannabis ruderalis. When the flowers of these plants are harvested and dried, you are left with one of the most common drugs in the world. Some refer to it as weed, some call it pot, others call it marijuana, some call it igbo, some call it ganja, and the rest of the name. Following the discovery of the medicinal value of cannabis, some countries pushed for its legalization. And in 2013, Uruguay became the first country to legalize cannabis for recreational and medicinal use. In 2018, Canada also joined the train. In some US states, it is also prescribed to help with a range of medical conditions, including chronic pain, glaucoma, poor appetite. The chemical constituent of cannabis, tetrahydrocannabinol and cannabinoids, are responsible for its medicinal value, with tetrahydrocannabinol being majorly responsible for the psychotic disorders. As Nigeria is now pushing for the legalization of cannabis, the professionals who are familiar with the plants, properties, and its effects should definitely take the front seat. In the National Assembly, a bill for the amendment of Dangerous Drug Act is being sponsored by the House Committee Chair on Media and Public Affairs. In Ondo State, the governor is pushing for legalization of cannabis. The global income from cannabis is projected at about $90 billion by 2026, and countries with potential to grow cannabis are pushing to be part of the deal. In Nigeria, with difficult regulatory terrain and the potential of losing the benefits to high health risk and escalated insecurity, how should we manage this situation in our hand? What are the merits and the demerits? The erudite speakers that are here tonight on call will be dissecting this subject with the hope to give their opinions on what Nigeria should do right as not to slip into chaos. Therefore, at this junction, I will be calling on the speakers one after the other. They have 15 minutes each to give their opinion. Let us know what is cannabis, the research work they have done, the environmental situation they know, and what are the situations they think Nigeria should do right. In terms of regulation, are we really right to begin to consider legalizing cannabis? Are we sure if cannabis is legalized, it will not find itself to the hands of a lot of young ones who are taken to crime, especially when Nigeria is battling high level of insecurity? Although the monetary gain and economic impact of legalizing cannabis is what every nation is looking at, and Nigeria being a nation that is looking for how to ensure that increase its revenue and diversify from only oil-based revenue, looking at agriculture as one of the areas to boost our revenue, is looking in this direction. But we must come with a lot of caution. This evening, we'll be calling on our speakers one after the other to give their perspective. And at the end of the day, we're going to collate all the opinions, all the questions, comments, and we're going to present it as a communique, which we normally do at the end of our events. And we naturally present it to the leadership of our society. And incidentally, the Committee of PSN on Industrial Licensing and Research is already collecting a memorandum. And we believe that our comments and our contribution this afternoon will form part of the opinion for PSN to latch on. This evening, I would like to welcome our speakers. We're going to be going on for 1 minute jingle now, and after which I'll be calling them one after the other to bring their perspective as we put pay to this particular discussion this evening. Welcome everybody. You are welcome on board. Feel free, be relaxed. The conversation is ongoing and we'll have a nice time. I call on Pharmacist Joe Wayo for the consult.
Guys, I don't dey go. My wife not too well.
Sharpshooter, don't score goal again, Abi.
Oh boy, no be that one. She do test, then say na malaria. Oh.
True, malaria see the disturb now. It be like say I never yarn you about my shortest paddy.
Which best friend you get? We will not sabi.
Name na Zoxin.
I need to know more about this your best friend.
No wahala. Zoxin, the better anti-malaria medicine. We get a better combination of artemether plus lumefantrine. Now confirm anti-malaria medicine. I never see any friend way better pass my Zoxin.
Oh boy, you know all these things. Now you know one tell us things. No wahala. Now when I know make I run go buy them for my wife. Oh,
correct guy. Now Bond Chemical Industries Limited, where they make it Pona Bay, Power Picking them. They make his Zoxin anti-malaria medicine. It day for pharmacy where they are area.
So thank you very much for that short introduction. I'll be calling on Professor Ray Ozolua to make his own position on the subject, legalizing cannabis in Nigeria. The merits and the demerits. What do we need to do right? What are the cautions? How, as pharmacists and as scientists, we can begin to lead the direction. So, Professor Ray Ozolua, you are welcome to the podium.
Good evening, moderator. Can you hear me clearly?
There is an echo from your system. There's an echo. You have to switch off one of the things.
One of them.
Okay. Hello. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, better.
Yes, it's better.
Okay. Yes, please permit me to switch off my camera for better reception. I'll put it on afterwards. Okay. Good evening, moderator, once again, fellow panelists, the distinguished colleagues, young and old, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honor for me to have been invited for this debate. Over the years, I have asked my pharmacy students a question while teaching them substance abuse. And I asked them, argue for and against the legalization of cannabis use in Nigeria. I'm therefore excited to be involved in this debate. Please permit me to dedicate my contributions here to my cousin, who exhibited so much promise when we were very young, but today has been ruined by cannabis. I have formulated some questions and answers that I hope will help our understanding of the issues and make us to be dispassionate in our contribution to this great debate. First, what is cannabis? It is a common name for 3 different species of the same genus, as the moderator had highlighted: Cannabis sativa, Cannabis indica, Cannabis ruderalis. They all look alike, and anyone without good knowledge of the different botanical features can mistake one for the other. But Cannabis sativa is the one most mentioned in literature. Cannabis is known by such street names as marijuana, Indian hemp, Igbo, Morocco, Kaya, Banya, and weed. The area parts, especially the leaves, are the most used. The leaves are wrapped and smoked but in recent times, they are also soaked in alcohol or alcoholic beverages and are used to make confectionery such as cakes and meat pies. Pharmacy student was presented with a meat pie baked Indian hemp about 2 weeks ago. Even in one species, soil type and climate do influence the nature of the constituents. Next question. Has raw cannabis ever been used in medicine? Yes. Historically, medicinal cannabis was first used about 400 AD. It featured as a patent medicinal product in the United States Pharmacopoeia, USP that is, from 1850, but became restricted in 1937 and was finally expunged from the official document in 1942, with penalties prescribed for possession. Removal from USP was based on health effects associated with its use and the need to prevent national stigmatization. Next question. When and why did cannabis become internationally illegal? Earlier international conventions focused mainly on opium products and their synthetic derivatives. These were referred to as narcotics. The United Nations Single Convention on Narcotics 1961 included cannabis due to strong reports associating it with abuse and dependence. So what has changed over the years? The use of biotechnology has resulted in varieties of cannabis with near zero abuse potentials, but high medicinal values. These varieties and the products derived from them have been called medicinal or medical or pharmaceutical or therapeutic cannabis and have been legalized in some states of the US and some countries as well. Over the years, there have been agitations for the legalization of the cultivation, distribution, and use of cannabis. In a poll conducted in the United States, 54% of respondents wanted all restrictions removed, while 80% of the respondents wanted cannabis use to be restricted to medical purposes only. What are the major constituents of cannabis, and what pharmacologically useful properties do they possess? There are hundreds of chemical constituents in cannabis. These constituents are called cannabinoids, but 2 of them are best known. Delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol, simply referred to as THC, and cannabidiol, CBD for short. While THC is associated with psychoactive properties, CBD is not and has been used as medicine for chemotherapy-induced nausea and vomiting, seizures, and anxiety. Other cannabinoids have been licensed for loss of appetite, migraine, multiple sclerosis, and glaucoma. The constituents differ in their affinities for the 2 cannabinoid receptors, CB1 and CB2. This will underscore the differences in their signal transduction mechanisms and biological effects. Varieties of cannabis with near zero concentrations of THC are generally referred to as medicinal cannabis or medical cannabis. They are the genetically modified varieties. What are the health consequences of white cannabis? Cannabis can cause hallucination and other symptoms of mental illness. It has a reinforcing effect and can lead to addiction. It has been stated that the majority of young patients in neuropsychiatric hospitals in Nigeria are suffering from cannabis-induced psychosis. So there's a strong correlation between cannabis use and psychosis and other schizophreniform disorders. Cannabis using youths often suffer from cognitive deficits, and smokers may come down with lung diseases, cancers, loss of libido, and oligospermia. Are there alternatives to medicinal cannabis? That's the next question. There are very many drugs for the conditions for which various medicinal cannabis have been indicated. There is no evidence that these already established medicines are inferior to the cannabinoids in any way. For example, in reducing intraocular pressure, the use of a cannabinoid does not appear superior to a prostaglandin analog like travoprost. Now, what is the current international state of cannabis legalization? In spite of the 1961 UN Convention and the laws by individual member states, cannabis is still largely an illegal substance worldwide. Some countries, for example, Macedonia, South Africa, Thailand, Uruguay, and Zimbabwe have legalized it only for medical use. Some countries, examples, Bolivia, Croatia, Czech Republic, Canada, Jamaica, allow citizens to possess certain amounts, say from 3.5 grams to 50 grams. Some countries, Belgium, France, Mexico, Slovenia, Spain, as examples, allow the cultivation and use of very low THC-containing cannabis. Mr. Moderator, my distinguished audience, let us focus on the Nigerian situation. What laws in Nigeria forbid cannabis? The Indian Hemp Act of 1966 and the Indian Hemp Amendment Act of 1984 prohibit the cultivation, distribution, sale, and possession of cannabis, and prescribe a prison term of 4 years for violation of any of the provisions. There are other laws as well. The NDLEA Act of 1989 and the NDLEA Act of 1990, Amendment Act of 1990. Other laws.
We cannot hear you again.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the next question. How has cannabis affected the lives of Nigerians? Mental health experts, as I said earlier, have stated that cannabis-induced psychosis is the highest basis for admission of youths into psychiatric hospitals in Nigeria. Cannabis is the substance of abuse by criminals such as rapists, armed robbers, and kidnappers. Lives have been lost to the health effects. The resultant tolerance and dependence are the basis for the other health and socioeconomic effects of its use. These effects must not be taken for granted. I repeat again that these effects must not be taken for granted. I suppose that every one of us knows one person or the other whose life has been adversely affected by the use of cannabis. Sadly, at the outset, I mentioned my cousin. Next question. Since delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol is the main culprit in cannabis-induced psychosis, does Nigeria possess the capacity to identify varieties with less THC? My answer is categorical no. Nigeria does not have the capacity to identify species and varieties of the cannabis plant that have low or zero concentrations of THC. This low capacity also reflects in the high incidence of fake and adulterated drugs and foods in Nigeria. It is doubtful whether the case will be different were government to legalize the cultivation of THC-free cannabis. Now, can Nigeria enforce the law on the cultivation, distribution, and use of THC-free cannabis? We all know that our laws are largely obeyed in the breach. For example, Nigeria has not been able to enforce the laws limiting the sale and distribution of prescription-only medicines to registered pharmacies. It is very doubtful if Nigeria can enforce the laws legalizing the cultivation, distribution, and use of only THC-free cannabis. Let us keep in mind that these varieties of cannabis look exactly like the wild non-medical type. Now, what are some of the confounding issues regarding the biological responses to white cannabis? Among the Ndokwa people of Delta State, cannabis is often used as a vegetable. It is possible that the variety that they use has far less THC concentration. It is also possible that Ndokwa people are genetically conformed to handle cannabis differently. Now, there are questions. Are there more psychotic persons in Ndokwa than other areas of Nigeria? No one knows. Are Black more susceptible to the harmful effects of cannabis? No one knows. Studies need to be commissioned in Nigeria to answer some of these confounding questions. Next question. What might the nation gain by legalizing the cultivation, distribution, and sale of medicinal cannabis? Theoretically, ladies and gentlemen, professional colleagues, cannabis-based materials and medicinal products would be available, mark my word, would be available for use by citizens and for export. There will be opportunities for jobs and enhanced economy. Yes, all these seem to be the focus of the agitators or advocates of legalization. On the other hand, the nation may suffer from increased cases of mental illness, addiction, and its health and socioeconomic sequelae. There will be increase in crime. Let us remember that one can hardly distinguish between the wide and therapeutic types. Why are those looking at the economic benefits of legalizing cannabis not promoting the cultivation of cash crops such as cocoa, palm produce, and rubber? These crops do well in the regions of Edo, Owan West in particular, my local government that is, and Ondo State, Idori, and around there, Ose local government in Ondo State that are notorious for the cultivation of cannabis are also the best places for some of these crops that I mentioned. Next question. Has the nation been able to control the sale, distribution, and use of other substances of abuse? Again, my response is no. The nation currently battles with the distribution, sale, and use of medically useful substances like tramadol, pentazocine, and codeine. Is the inability to enforce the provisions of the law a basis to legalize cannabis? I would say no. That international borders are porous does not suggest the withdrawal of immigration officers from their duty posts. Alarming crime rates such as the nation is currently experiencing is no reason to sack the police. We might as well say that there should be no law limiting the sale and use of ethical drugs because the laws concerning them have been poorly enforced. And perhaps the last question, what has the nation done with our well-established herbal medicines? In Nigeria, we have very many well-established and thoroughly researched herbal medicines with very wide safety margin. Examples include bitter cola, bitter leaf, king of bitters, andrographis that is. For example, the therapeutic spectrum, as I know it, because I have researched in that area, the therapeutic spectrum of andrographis is mind-blowing, from anti-asthma to anti-Zika virus. This, to me, should be promoted instead of cannabis. Cannabinoids such as cannabidiol, sold as Epidiolex, and Nebiximol, sold as Sativex, may be approved for medical use, but even so, newer synthetic cannabinoids with better pharmacological profiles are underway. Cultivation of cannabis for medical purposes may soon be overtaken by advances in pharmaceutical science. Chairman, moderator, my concluding thoughts. There is medicinal cannabis, but we lack the capacity to distinguish between the medicinal one, that is the one with low concentration of THC, and the wide variety. Our laws are very poorly enforced, so that legalizing medicinal cannabis is tantamount, in my opinion, to legalizing the wide variety as well. There are medicines for diseases for which medicinal cannabis is being promoted. In any case, cannabis-derived medicines can be imported like others if they meet the criteria for inclusion in the federal government essential medicines list, and if other regulatory concerns have been addressed as well. If governments are interested in promoting herbal medicines for health and economic reasons, they should consider the very many herbal medicinal plants that have been very well researched and have very wide margin of safety. Whatever the merits that exist, the demerits, in my opinion, are more. And I advise that Nigeria should hurry slowly in legalizing cannabis cultivation, distribution, possession, and use. Let me repeat again, the demerits, to me, are more. And I advise that Nigeria should hurry slowly, make haste slowly in legalizing the cultivation, distribution, and possession, use of cannabis. Nigeria is peculiar in many respects. Mr. Moderator and distinguished audience, my colleagues, I want to thank you for listening. These are my views. God bless every one of us as we make progress. Thank you very much for listening. I hope I have not exceeded the 15 minutes that you have allotted to me.
No.
Thank you so much, Professor Ray. The timing is just apt. You are able to manage within the 15 minutes schedule. Even when I sent you a reminder, you beat it. Thank you so much. I believe so many of us have questions boiling in our mind. And I believe strongly every one of us will have opportunity to ask the questions. We have enough time to answer various questions. Professor Ray Ozoluwa has actually positioned his papers and his opinion on the subject. So at this juncture, I'll be calling on Professor Enen Wanang, to also make some sense out of this topic and how will he see it from his own perspective. Thank you very much, Professor Wanang. You are welcome to the podium.
Yeah, thank you very much, moderator, distinguished colleagues. I sincerely appreciate you all. I am also happy to speak after Professor Ozolua because he has exhausted the pharmacological aspect of which I have made some preparations on them. It's a very beautiful thing. There's no need for me to have a repeat of the pharmacology and other areas that he had already stated. But let me take us down to memory lane. Worldwide, sometimes around 1844, the first publication on medicinal properties of Indian hemp was made by one William Lely. It was published in Lancet on the 27th of April, 1844. Between 1844, where people knew the medicinal value, it is only after around World War II that Nigeria came to know first about Indian hemp. It is historically stated that they must have known Indian hemp through soldiers, through sailors that came into the country. But between the period that they came in and now, Nigeria is rated in the top 4 of the industries that have been investing or the highest users of cannabis worldwide. In Africa, we have Nigeria and Zambia leading. Then we have USA and Canada from other countries. I'm giving this narration so that you can see if from the 18th century, other countries are known to have cannabis. But we in Nigeria, we just knew this about less than 100 years ago, and yet we have rated this much. Let me also remind us here that when you check information, you realize that Nigeria is the 8th largest consumer of cannabis worldwide. And it is a very, very terrible situation now. You look at Ekiti State, Ondo State, Oyo State, about 10% of every youth in Nigeria, 10% is assumed to be consuming cannabis. When you look at the population, we are talking about 20 million Nigerians. In Ekiti State, sometimes in 2017, they had Indian hemp farm that was about 246 tons. That same period, Ondo State had about 5,000 hectares. And this 5,000 hectares in Ondo State is arguably the largest Indian hemp farm in the world, in the plantation in the world. Oyo State had about 1,000 seeds of Indian hemp seized by NDLA, and it was discovered that they have about 24 hectares in a very thick forest, which they cultivate Indian hemp. Edo State, Osun State, Delta State, all of them have destroyed plenty farmlands of Indian hemp or wheat. Looking at what is happening, our attention is just on the global perspective, whereby cannabis cultivation is expected to give us a huge amount of money. It is documented that by 2026, we are going to have about $45.5 billion from Indian hemp. But is that just what we want? Let us look at it again from the other areas. Initially, people have used it for recreation, people have used it for ritual, people have used it for spiritual needs, more often popularized by musicians and all that. But the question is Nigeria really ripe to legalize Indian hemp? What about the tramadol? What about the benylin that we had a lot of an array of questions and difficulties about how to handle it? What about the ordinary drug distribution on the street? If you go to the markets today, if you go to the motor parks today, you will see people hawking drugs like Kolanol. I'm happy that Professor Ray spoke at length on the medicinal values of Indian hemp and all that. Picking one, Indian hemp had been repeatedly used in the treatment of epilepsy. I did my PhD on epilepsy, and I investigated also the Solano nigrum, which has excellent anti-epileptic property. If government is looking at anti-epileptic property, have we exhausted the herbs that we have on ground that have already been established and thoroughly investigated by scientists? Go to the universities in this country, go to pharmacy schools. You will see an array of publications from international journals, publications on their shelves, research works on their shelves on these plants. We have Garcinia cola. We have Cucumis metuliferus. We have Socuridacea longipendiculata. All these are plants that have anti-inflammatory property, they have anti-hypertensive property, have anti-epileptic property, and all those plenty, the arrays that they have been reeled out that cannabis has. Of truth, Nigeria lacks the capacity. Nigeria is not ripe. We cannot regulate the Indian hemp legalization or market that we're seeing. Even the regularization, the enforcement is something. Our borders are porous, crime rate will increase. Looking at even the countries that had legalized Indian hemp, Colorado, for instance, and Washington, for instance, the crime rate in those countries have increased. Taking it from another perspective, the number of psychotic cases in their hospital and their psychiatric units in Colorado, for instance, doubled. The number of patients that have been, especially youths between 18 and 25, that visited psychiatric units in these two areas, scenarios that I've given you doubled. If it is so, these are countries that have a very strong legal bone. What do we have in Nigeria? What is our enforcement capacity? How have we enforced the capacities of the ordinary blood distribution on the streets? Have we succeeded? We have a lot of porous issues. Prescription medicine onlys are being littered on our streets. We have plenty issues of drug resistance. But our own, we are just looking at the efficacy, what has been documented by the white man. Do we have enough scientific evidence here in Nigeria? Have you even known that there are different grades of the cannabis we are talking about? The cannabis in Nigeria, the ones in Plateau State where I stay, could be different from the one that is harvested in Delta State through biodiversity, like what my colleague earlier stated. But we should not just be carried away by what we see on Google, what we read on Wikipedia and all that. We should look at the responsibility of protecting our citizens, the responsibility of protecting health, and the interests of Nigerians. If we decide that we are going to harvest cannabis and expunge the THC, which is responsible for the hallucination, are we sure we are not going to grow another hydra-hated phenomenon? Are we sure we can have a proper distribution, disposal of the isolated or the extracted ingredient that causes CNS activity? The answer is we cannot do that. We lack the capacity. We have several instances whereby we have seen we have exposed ourselves to a lot of dangers. How have we been dealt with the tramadol that we had to wait for somebody from a reporter from BBC to come and tell us that, yes, the Kano people are doing high on tramadol? Was it not somebody that came outside the country to tell us? Why are we trying to jump into an area that we have not investigated much? Those countries that have legalized Indian hemp, they don't even know the long-term implication. Peradventure, if we have decided that we are going to use them in the treatment of epilepsy, in the treatment of nausea and vomiting, in treatment of cancer, do we know the long-term implication of the usage of these extracts? The answer is no investigation, no research has already been done in those items. We are just jumping because we have looked at the financial status, we have looked at the financial gain that we are going to get from bringing in this drug. Whether it is how many billion naira government is interested to get those monies on hand. But we have a lot, like my colleague said, we have cocoa, nobody has talked about that. We have sugarcane, nobody has talked about that. We have herbs that we can even decide to have a council, a laboratory that will principally investigate on these things, and then we develop them into drugs. My take, I think we are rushing into this because the white man says it is economically fruitful. We are rushing into this because most likely too, a lot of those that are advocating or pushing or rushing into it are either trying to legalize it because they want to openly enjoy the benefit of probably what they're doing secretly. Because if you have known someone that is a victim of drug abuse and drug misuse, you will be the last person to think of legalizing Indian hemp. Not even worldwide, not to talk of Nigeria, that we have a lot of porous, very, very regulatory incapacities that is haunting us and our progress. I think I'll stop here so that I'll spend some time and then we receive questions from our people. Moderator, my distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I sincerely thank you for this brief background and addition to what Professor Ray has said. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Professor Wanang. This is a beautiful presentation, and you have actually given us the demographic distribution and how the topic of cannabis legalization is actually getting fuel from those people that have the opportunity of thinking. It's an opportunity for them to do some things they are doing in the secret openly. Well, thank you so much. Question will be coming, and we believe strongly you will be ready to answer some of the questions that will be coming shortly. At this juncture, I would like to welcome to podium our immediate past chairman, Board of Fellow from Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, Pharmacist Chiedu Modi Esquire, to present his own position. And as a legal luminary, he will also be able to paint some legal pictures onto the topic of discussion this afternoon. So, Pharmacist Chiedu Modi, you are welcome to the podium, sir. You have 15 minutes to make your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, moderator. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you very loud.
Good.
Yes.
It would have been very unnecessary to repeat some of the things said by my co-discussant, but you need to build an argument. So you pardon me for some repetitions. They are rather necessary. We can't help mentioning the chemical components of cannabis. I won't go into the species that are available, but you can't help mentioning the chemical components of cannabis. It is these two components, THC and CBD, that confer on marijuana the therapeutic and psychotropic properties they have. They affect pain, mood, and sleep memory. What THC is responsible for, which THC is responsible for the psychotropic properties, while CBD has mainly the medicinal attributes of cannabis. There's no gainsaying that CBD has some therapeutic values, but the issue is, are they the only, is that the only medicine that can take care of the ailments that treat? Well, CBD has been shown to be a potent painkiller used in oncology to stop the proliferation of malignant cells in hypoglycemia and so on and so forth. It has anti-seizure properties. It's used to control neurodegenerative diseases as a result of neuroprotection properties. It's also used in dermatology to treat asthma. Well, because CBD can protect the neurons at the cannabis brain receptors, the psychotropic activities of THC, where they occur in recreational cannabis, is neutralized by CBD. Insofar as the THC is in negligible quantities. Of the two chemicals present, THC is major psychotropic constituent of cannabis. It affects mood, memory, damages brain receptor irreversibly, particularly in young people who indulge in cannabis smoking, creates euphoria and the rest of it. But WHO has reported that cannabis-induced psychotic depression is high in Nigeria, which shows that many Nigerians are involved in the use of cannabis. This is without prejudice to the fact that it is an illegal drug and it has been criminalized. Now, the Nigerian cannabis, that is the crux of the matter. The Nigerian cannabis, it is not the ordinary cannabis that is legalized in other climes. According to Obianwu, who has done research for over 20 years in this field, all the samples of cannabis investigated have a preponderance of THC, almost to the exclusion of CBD, which is the one that has some therapeutic uses. There is a variety with the street name Arizona, found particularly in Ondo, that has a ratio of THC to BDC of 140:1. This ratio of THC to CBD is to my mind, is devastating to whoever may try it. So we have to be sure of the cannabis we are romancing with, the Nigerian cannabis. In fact, from this lecture, from what I know, the topic should have been legalizing the Nigerian cannabis. It's not the ordinary cannabis in other places. Well, recreational or medicinal cannabis. The National Institute of Drug Abuse defines medicinal cannabis or recreational cannabis as using the whole unprocessed marijuana plant or its basic extract to treat symptoms of illness and other conditions. Usually in countries where cannabis has been legalized, you only have marijuana containing 0.3% or less. Such legislation does not have in contemplation the kind of cannabis we have in Ondo State, the kind of cannabis we have in Ekiti, or the kind of cannabis we have in Delta, with a ratio of 140 to 1 in favor of THC, which is the Nigerian situation. For the countries that have legalized cannabis, there are some preconditions before the legalization. What is legalized is medical or recreational cannabis with less than 0.3% THC. Obviously, not the Nigerian type of cannabis. Despite the seeming harmlessness of the recreational cannabis or medical cannabis with less than 0.3% THC, the countries that have legalized or that are contemplating legalizing cannabis have formidable structures and systems for regulation and control of the drug. Well, I'm in community pharmacy, so I cannot talk about the position of our regulatory agencies because I can be an easy prey. But we all know how formidable these structures and systems we have in Nigeria. Consider a situation where we were indicted very hopelessly by WHO that over 80% of anti-malaria drugs we found in the Nigerian market is fake, is pathetic, is sad. In such jurisdictions, the governments have and they display the political will to enforce laws that regulate and control the product. Do we have such political will? Do we have the structures to regulate, control drugs? We must consider if we have the right environment and atmosphere to enforce laws, or whether such laws for enforcement of cannabis, if eventually is legalized, will grow mold in the textbooks. The legalization of the legalizations that usually come before the legalization, the legislations that usually come before the legalization of cannabis in those areas where cannabis has been legalized, they tend to reduce to the barest minimum the collateral illegalities that come with the legalization of cannabis. There is a set of legalization that are enforced to the letter in places where cannabis has been legalized. They include, but not limited to, 1, registration and licensing of vendors. Cultivation and farming are controlled by the appropriate authorities. Smoking is restricted to designated area and obviously not within public spaces. In Nigeria, where cannabis is illegal, we know that at joints, in public places, cannabis can be seen openly with audacity being smoked around. In those areas where cannabis has been legalized, clients, customers can only make purchases with verified identifications. Here, can we identify those who take our dangerous drugs, who buy our dangerous drugs? We cannot. It is difficult, if not impossible. In areas where cannabis has been legalized, the government goes the extra mile of doing price control simply to ensure that the legalized cannabis is affordable and available to some extent to those who want to purchase it, so that they won't be attracted to the black market where they may have the good, the bad, the ugly to buy. They want to be sure that it is the recreational cannabis, the medical cannabis that is only sold to their citizens. They also have enforced age restrictions. The product is not available to people less than 21 years of age. Vendors are barred from selling edible varieties of products. Above all, adverts of the products are strictly regulated. These are some of the structures that are put on ground before the legalization of cannabis. Well, let's look at the concept of law, because to legalize cannabis is making a law that says you can now have cannabis without being criminalized. The issue to be determined by this entire debate or discussion is whether the law to legalize cannabis is a good law or a bad law. To be able to do this, it will be necessary to examine the concept of law and its expectations. There are two schools of thought when it comes to determining what law is and the goodness or the badness of law. These are the positivist school of thought and then the natural law school. The positivists hold that law is a command by the person or sovereign who has the authority to make law. Once such a law is promulgated, it behoves everybody to comply. This is without prejudice to whether the law is oppressive or not. The point is that it has been made by that man, by that person who has the power to make the law, and then he has prescribed a punishment for non-compliance. This is in contradistinction from the natural law school. In the natural law school of thought about law, they hold that law must serve the good cause of a community and must foster the common good of the entire community, not the common good of some, the common good of the entire community. These natural law school legal philosophers also state that the law is not to benefit the governor, but is for the benefit almost exclusively for the government. And so if a governor pushes for the legalization of cannabis with the anticipation of any income to do whatever, that by the concept of law of the natural law school philosophy is a bad law. The good law must be seen primarily as a product of reason and must stand the test of critical reasoning. It must come from well-reasoned processes and then projected to ensure that it doesn't do any harm to the community. A law is good if it serves the common good of the entire community. And if a law is unreasonable, it will automatically be devoid of moral authority. And so these legal philosophers put in morality in the quality of laws that they classify as good laws. And if we are now to apply this to the law legalizing cannabis, we will be able to say whether that law is a good law or a bad law. There are two judgmental tools projected for this examination. One is utilitarianism, headed by Jeremy Bentham, Thomas Aquinas, and John Phoenix, and others. They use this to verify the goodness or badness of any law, to advocate that a good law is one that brings happiness and pleasure to the greatest number of people, and the one that brings pain to the least number of people in a community. And so when you pick up a law, when a law is in the process, and then you apply this judgmental calibrator, what is the utilitarian use of the law? How will it bring joy or pleasure to the entire community? Or how will it bring pain or sorrow to the entire community? And that was pushed further by John Finnis is the concept of consequentialism. This is another judgmental tool put in place by the natural law school of thought in deciding if a law is good or bad. Consequentialism is hinged on the premise that the overall outcome of any piece of legislation determines whether the law is a good law or a bad law. If the overall outcome of legalizing marijuana is increase in admission in the psychiatric hospital, then the consequence, applying the rule of consequentialism, shows that it is a bad law because the outcome will create more mad people on our street. Already we have more than we can contend with. There is an illusion that the legalization of cannabis is going to end Nigeria foreign exchange. This is being taunted by the proponents of that law. Legalizing the Nigerian cannabis has been taunted as being capable of earning for the country some foreign exchange. But to this, I say that it is mere air bubble, because through the instrumentality of the international narcotic control agencies, the Nigerian cannabis will not leave the shores of Nigeria as a result of its high content of THC. I want everybody to take note of that. Ghana knows that the Nigerian cannabis has a high content of THC, and that a single puff is enough to block the cannabis brain receptors in the brain. And this is irreversible, particularly with young children. And so people should think less about earning foreign exchange. If, therefore, the Nigerian cannabis is legalized and it becomes more readily available, because that is what it is going to be. Now that is under in the pot and covered, we still have expanse of land being cultivated of cannabis. We still have tons of weed being transshipped from one area to the other. We still have people who do menial jobs smoking cannabis freely. Then what will happen when it is legalized? Or is it, to quote my immediate past speaker, is it for them now to have a free day to do what they have been doing in the corner? That has to be investigated, because I don't see how legalizing cannabis should come to the front burner in the Nigerian economy. Agriculture is there. Mineral resources untapped is there. The stones in our towns and all over the place have not been converted to marble. And yet, we are talking of legalizing cannabis in order to end foreign exchange. I think it's a ruse. Summary and conclusion. The three species have been mentioned. There are two major products mentioned. Mutatis mutandis, CBD is responsible for the therapeutic properties, THC for the psychotropic properties. Countries that have legalized cannabis produce only recreational or medicinal cannabis, which contains 0.5 to, 0.3% THC or less. The cannabis indigenous to Nigeria has almost exclusively THC that is skewed, that has exclusively THC 140 to 1 skewed in favor of THC. Jurisdictions that have legalized cannabis have effective and efficient regulatory control systems. They have tracking and monitoring mechanisms. Here, we cannot even monitor anything. Here, our regulators have no-go areas. The regulation can take place in my pharmacy, but can they take place in areas where you don't know the proprietor? A whole market for drugs. Who goes there to regulate? Of course, nobody will blame them because life has no duplicate. Has government empowered them? Has government demilitarized these drug markets, medicine markets, to make it possible for them to be enforced? If cannabis is regulated and then they have shops to do that, how are we sure that regulators will dare go near them, except if they are going to be dispensed in pharmacies? But I am not even amused by the thought that only pharmacies will be allowed to dispense such cannabis, even if it comes to pass, because we know that it's only registered pharmacies that dispense prescription-only medicines. But that is as a matter of law. But de facto, distributors are not in the pharmacies, are not the pharmacies. De facto distributors to 80% of the medicines we have around us are in the no-go areas. And so how can you complicate issues to that extent of legalizing cannabis where they cannot be checked or regulated? From the point of view of utilitarianism and consequentialism, legalizing cannabis in Nigeria will make the country a nation of lunatics. Take it or leave it, but that is what is going to happen. Contrary to the view being brandished that legalizing cannabis will earn Nigeria foreign exchange, I think otherwise. It is my considered view that this is mere illusion, because the Nigerian cannabis is very toxic, and in fact, it is lethal. Above all, the international narcotic control agencies will ensure that no particle of it will leave the borders of Nigeria. And unfortunately, if all the cannabis, when the lid is removed, that all the cannabis to be produced are now let loose to the streets, then we will have psychiatric hospital every local government area of Nigeria. Conclusion: Nigeria should trash the thought of legalizing cannabis, except it wants to go into the exercise of legislative rascality. Thank you.
So much. This hourly expository is deep, and is unfortunately those people who believe what we have in Nigeria is good can begin to test their weight now to see whether what we want to legalize is for any foreign exchange or to produce generation of lunatics. Thank you so much, Pharmacist Chiedimodi, for this depth of exposition. It's a very welcome presentation. Thank you so much. So we're going to be going right away to the next session now, which is time for people in the house to make their comments, their questions. Please kindly put your question in the chat room, or you can raise your hand, and we'll come back to you in 1 minute as we share one of the adverts adverts from from our sponsor of today's event. So we'll be back in 1 minute, and just put your question as that session will be taken on shortly. And I'll be inviting pharmacist Foluke Akiniroyi to take that session.
For a healthy and a vibrant baby, lively, bright and happy child. Born a baby is what you need, and it's here for you to give your baby first relief from cold, fever and pain. For quality drug and care, Born a baby is here for you. Ooh, born a baby. Ooh, born a baby. Ooh, born a baby.
Naturally, babies cannot speak. All they do is cry whenever they are sick. And you know, a happy baby makes a happy mother.
When your baby is going through aches, pains, and other feverish conditions,
treat your baby well. Use Born a Babe syrup from the stable of Bond Chemical Industries Limited. Born a Babe.
If symptoms persist after 2 days, consult your doctor.
Born a babe. Born a babe. Oh, born a baby.
Your baby's relief.
So let me welcome Pharmacist Foluke to take on this next session. Pharmacist Akiniroyi, over to you.
Then you're not I don't know.
Good afternoon, my esteemed colleagues.
For my money back? It's for my money.
Can you please?
You don't want it
Can
from
you
your
please
money?
mute yourself if you are not
I'm
talking?
just asking.
Good afternoon, my esteemed colleagues and very capable speakers. In fact, we have had a very interesting discussion between our three speakers. Professor Ray Ozolwa, we thank you so much. Dr. Noel Wanang and Dr. Chiedu Modi, you have been very wonderful. And what I can summarize in the three discussants is the fact that they have a consensus in that legalizing cannabis in Nigeria will do more harm than good. That there will be nothing, a country that is already having issues in terms of the sanity of its indigents, now wanting to legalize cannabis is only going to raise a country full of lunatics, to put it mildly. Because if somebody is it is lunatic that is only going to be let loose, then we can say that person is only doing themselves harm. But then it's going to unleash a lot of issues, and the essence of wanting to legalize this cannabis, which is mainly for increasing foreign exchange, will be defeated because, you know, of the kind of cannabis that we don't even know the composition. We know that cannabis has two major important ingredients, apart from hundreds of chemical constituents that confer to the drug therapeutic and psychotropic properties. And most of the times, they raise that of the therapeutic effect that they can even be used for. So it defeats the purpose. And without taking too much of our time, because we really want questions to be answered, we will take, I see hands that have been raised, and I'm going to take them one at a time. And I want to appeal to our esteemed colleagues on the platform to please make it to the, short question to the point so that we can take many questions. So I would like to start with Pharmacist Odina Kachi. Please, I see your hand raised. I will start with your question. If you will mute yourself, and please quickly give us your question. I see after that, I will take it in order of how the hands came up. Please forgive me, it's not in order of seniority or you know, but in terms of how the hands came up. So pharmacist Odinakachi, please ask your question. Thank you. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon or good evening. Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can
Go
anyone
ahead.
hear me?
Go ahead.
We can hear you. We can hear you, Michael.
Okay, yes, good evening. My question is a direct one. But first and foremost, I want to thank you for having this conversation. It's an enlightening one, and it's something I believe it's a big thing to do because if you look at the current situation of things in the world, Nigeria hasn't so much been willing to participating in growth and development as per se, you know, to some extent. Now, my question is just being in two phases. One, why does it seem as if this conversation was basically in one direction, as if we were outrightly trying to say no to cannabis? Then two, rather not cannabis, but the use of cannabis, CBD oils, and its component in various forms. Then two, second question, most of many of our presenters have made comments about how Nigeria isn't ready. That shouldn't be an argument. I believe we should look at how can we make Nigeria ready? Instead of looking for excuses or using some words like one of the presenters, professor once said earlier that people are doing something in secret and they want to find a way to make it to the open. The second presenter mentioned, used the word like a kind of very aggressive word to some people who use cannabis for their personal reasons or whatever reason they use it for. But I don't think we should bash a particular group of people or group of indigenes or whatever group it is who have been using this drug for a while. You know, for their own personal reasons, fine. We are looking at cannabis as one of those grasses people go and buy on the road to smoke to get a certain feeling or highness or whatever way we want to describe that. But if we do just that, aren't we being just myopic? I think we should ask the right question: how can we make Nigeria ready for development in the medical sector, for the growth and development in the pharmaceutical sector, in cosmetics, for example? Because many research have shown that cannabis oil is very much beneficial even to skin cancer. So we should be looking at the positive aspects of how we can get ready for that and not bashing it outrightly like most of our presenters have done today. You know, that's my angle, and those are just my questions. And I hope maybe I can get like real answers to all that, because we have mentioned all the negative aspects of cannabis, which comes from the assumption of people who smoke it. From what I understand, people want to get high, people want to become irresponsible, people want to become, there's another word I'm not trying to remember, which was mentioned earlier today, which I think is quite unfair also to use. But we can regulate cannabis. We can regulate, if you could regulate Panadol, Tramadol, and other kind of pharmaceutical drugs, why can't we also put up measures to regulate the use of cannabis? Thank you.
Very much, Pharmacist Odinakachi. Do we take all the questions and then we can take note of the questions, please? So
please,
the next
take all the questions. Yes.
Yes. The next person I would like to call is Dr. Solomon. Please unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Questions.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I am delighted. I am delighted to participate.
Lower your hand. Yes.
Okay, I will. I'm delighted to participate in this discourse. And my regard goes to the trio that presented on this. It's very wonderful. I agree with them in entirety and in toto that the toxicological profile is more than the pharmacological profile. And I agree that Nigeria should plow into more of plants that has been researched in a lot of arrays of schools of pharmacy in Nigeria and put them into use, which will reflect the economy of Nigeria, like Gangrenoma latifolia, Afromama which qualis. All those ones have actually established pharmacological potentials. And they should be encouraged to go into that. And I agree with Barrister Chirimori that Nigeria will turn into a country of lunatics if eventually it's legalized. So I distance a bit from the last speaker who said that there are still benefits, like in terms of oil in respect of dermatological use. But you should try to understand that even if we begin to allow that dermatological use, some people will start even drinking the oil because the effect will still be there to give them the feelings which we are agitating for, that is not right to be used in Nigeria. So I agree in total that cannabis, that Nigeria is not matured. They don't have the capacity, they don't have the enablement for them to legalize cannabis in Nigeria. Thank you, and God bless all of us.
Amen. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. My able chairman, can you please, Pharmacist Samuel Adekola, please lower your hand and unmute yourself. You are next.
Oh, thank you very much, sister. And let me also use the opportunity to thank the organizer of this discourse and thank very specially our distinguished presenters. I have quite a number of comments quickly from the last one. The last speaker, comment of the fact that if CBD oil is allowed for legalization, that won't people be drinking it? Well, I think that's a lot of misinformation because we all know, and even from today's presentation, that CBD has no psychoactive activity. So the question of CBD now causing psycho problem probably will not arise. That is by the way. I'm also happy that at least one or two of the people who responded also have also talked about the issue of some of the languages that were used, particularly on attacking people who are advocating. By the grace of God today, as a pharmacist, I am one of those who believe that Nigeria can legalize cannabis. I am not a smoker. And let me also tell the professor that I don't smoke, and by the grace of God, I will never smoke. Like I said in one discourse, I have seen cannabis grow from my childhood, even when I don't know anything about it. And to the point, to the extent that even those that were growing it, that I know, in my father's farm, where I grew up, I did not see one of them who has actually, from that day till now, I've not seen one of them who has gone lunatic. And this can only be substantiated by the fact that from some of the readers, we have not done research, I have not done researches, but for some of the readers, one of the points that alluded to this fact is the fact that those who become lunatic because of cannabis are people who genetically have history, family history of lunacy. Yeah. So I am not a researcher, I have not done that, but that is the reading I have. That's to support my whole experience with what I saw and I grew up with as a child. Secondly, or thirdly, there was allusion to the fact that we do not have capacity in Nigeria, that we lack knowledge of the species that grow in Nigeria. But unfortunately, I think one of the presenters said Nigeria's species has highest number of THC. Well, I do not know where that research comes from. We'll be willing to read from that. But from a substantiated research recently conducted by Dr. Hales McGregor, a pharmacist from Nigeria, and currently the president and professor of biopharmaceutics and pharmacy technology, and currently dean of faculty of School of Pharmacy in Ontario, Canada, came to Ondo State and picked species that is growing in Ondo State. And the result he brought back confirmed that that species that is growing in
has the highest number, has the greatest percentage of CBD. Against, in fact, the recommendation was that is the best in all the species that they have in the world. I'm quoting Dr. Hales McGregor, a pharmacist and the president, professor of biopharmaceutics. For people in Nigeria who talks about researches, I don't think there's a research, if a professor or a researcher in Nigeria who can come out and beat his chest and said, oh, I have done this much on cannabis. Because today,
I'm here.
Okay, sir. Because today, cannabis in Nigeria is legalized. I mean, sorry, is illegal. So even getting it with you will be regarded as being legal. And that is why researches in Nigeria, I mean, except if we said otherwise, the researches to cannabis in Nigeria is legalized. So, which is one of the things we're talking about as pharmacists. My own support for cannabis has nothing to do with what the governor of Ondo State is pushing. But I take my position from the position of FIP. Position of FIP. By God's grace today, I am a council member of FIP. And the discussion of cannabis in FIP, for some of us who are regular FIP, those of us also know that this will be my 12th, I mean, if we have had the last one, it will be my 12th serial FIP attendance. And by God's grace, I'm always very punctual at lectures and what goes on there. So, I'm sorry, sir. Yeah, let me just quickly make this point. The position of FIP is that
yes,
in 2013, I mean, discussion on even the use of cannabis has, for recreational, started in 2013. And by 2017, of course, it became very controversial at FIP council level. And the council of FIP set up a committee on it, the bureau. And by 2017, the council statement of cannabis was released in 2018, which was approved at the FIP council that we had at Scotland. And the statement reads that government, both to government and to pharmacists, that were for the pharmacists should be involved, and they should, and their professional body should be involved in, let me just read it straight in a sentence.
Since we have very little time, I have
yes, 1 minute.
12 questions.
When appropriate, pharmacists should be engaged and their professional association around the question of cannabis, marijuana for medicinal purposes, with view of developing rational and effective policy in this regard, and not castigating, saying that we should be involved, and that is getting ourselves to be involved. We should not sit back and continue to say the negative about cannabis. The issue of we have other drugs, as Professor Ray says, oh, we have other drugs for glaucoma. Why are we talking about the benefits?
I appreciate you.
Okay. Well,
I appreciate you, sir. It's a question. You have a question for us? I have 12 more hands that are up. I appreciate you. Obviously, this is not going to be the last discussion on this issue because it's a controversial issue and people are divergent in their opinion. So if you'd like to ask your last question.
My last question, let me ask, that has to do with human rights issue. If you are saying Nigeria is not right for cannabis legalization, which indeed what is being advocated at this point or at this time is the legalization of the controlled cultivation and not legalizing cannabis as, and that's the mistake we're making, legalizing it for recreational use. No person, not even the law, I mean, not even the bill that is being advocated, I mean, that is being considered, is advocating legalization for recreational use. It's talking about medicinal and industrial use. And to the extent that even smoking of cannabis will continue to be illegal, we must understand this. We must have this perspective, right perspective of what is being discussed. Let us take note of this. And we're talking about, so the human rights issue, I'm sorry, in 2019.
Yes, sir. We got to take some
my question is, yes, that's the human rights issue. Okay. Well, I wanted to just explain the human rights issue.
Mr. Chairman, we need to go. We need to move, please. So that
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yes, we have so many people. Yes,
Thank
we
you.
have
Thank you
another
very
forum
much.
also. Please let
Thank
me
you
take
very
the
much.
next person.
Thank you very much.
Pharmacist Omonike Oladoshu, London, UK. Let us hear your own perspective, your question. This is Omonike Oladoshu, pharmacist. Sorry. Please unmute yourself and lower your hand. Your question real quick, please.
Okay. The various aspects, what has been considered by the speaker, my own, the way I feel about the whole thing is that why the government wants to benefit from revenues or things that other nations are benefiting from, they should make sure that when they formulate policy, that the finished products by the pharmaceutical company, the price does not get out of the hand of the people that really need the products. Because if the cost that has been put in has become too high for the people that will really benefit from the products, then the ordinary people that needs the product, we rather go to the black markets. So they have to, these are part of the things that I think they should consider. Even as they consider the harms and the public health needs must be balanced. They have to look at the various aspects of the whole issue. Another thing, I think should be looked at critically is the way the company that has legalized the medicinal use, what's their own experience. We should look at the experience of Canada, Zimbabwe, or Lesotho, because at least we should look at the experience of African countries that have legalized it for medicinal use, or they are about legalizing it. We should not just look at the experiences of people of places like Canada. Let's come back home to Africa to look at their own experience, so that at the end of the day, Nigerians will benefit from it rather than reaping adverse effects. That's my own contribution. Thank you.
I truly appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Please, let's take more questions so that people can speak their mind. Can I have pharmacist Ado Mohammed? Please lower your hand and speak quickly, please. I got
Hello, a few more hands.
I'm
actually a medical doctor. I'm not a pharmacist, but I've trained in pharmaceutical medicine.
Okay.
I've been in the research and development industry for the last 20 years or so. And my areas of expertise is cannabinoid drug development. I'm glad that somebody mentioned actually one of the first compound that we brought into the world, the first cannabis-based medicine, which is Sativex. At that time, I was working as a medical director of GW Pharmaceuticals in the United Kingdom. Now, the issue of cannabis and cannabis legalization is twofold. On one side is the legal component of it, and the other one is the scientific sort of medicinal. Now, I'm not really terribly happy to hear that Nigeria is not ready. Well, Nigeria is ready, because when you think about cannabis, I don't look at it as a recreational drug. I actually see it as a medicinal product. So the question of whether Nigeria is ready or not is just a matter of conviction. In other words, if Nigerian authorities, Nigerian government is aware that medicines can be made out of this plant, it's up to Nigerian government to put in the necessary structure to look at both the legal and the regulatory component of it. It's as simple as that. The United Kingdom, where GW Pharmaceutical is based, and the first company to bring cannabis-based medicine, didn't start straight away. There were legal structures in place in anticipation of potential use of cannabis as medicine. The same thing is in Canada. That's why this country are still in the forefront of medicinal drug development from cannabis. And I've been hearing people talking about CBD and THC. Well, there are about 101 also cannabinoids, including THCV, including cannabigerol. They are all currently in drug development, and we've been doing them. We've been developing drug over time. So, in summary, it's not the cannabis we're talking about. It's cannabis-based medicine we're talking about. There are legal systems that need to be put in place, and there are scientific systems that need to be put in place. So if Nigeria understands that there are a lot of unmet medical needs that can be used, can be treated using drug development cannabis, then it's up to Nigerian government to put this structure in place, the scientific and the legal component, to make sure that this is done legally and scientifically. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ado Mohammed. We will please appreciate that. We would like to call you later and get more information. We know time is limited and you have a lot to share.
Yes,
please,
absolutely. Yes, I'm still in
liaise with
cannabis drug development. I'm still in drug development. And for the last couple of years, I've been doing exactly that in the industry at global level.
Yes, thank you so much. We appreciate your contribution. We're going to now take a question from Pharmacist Ejiro Foyibo. We have a lady coming up. Please, very short, please. I know there's so many people want to ask questions.
Yes, thank you very much. I want to say a big thank you to the organizers and the presenters so far. From what we have all seen, I think there is no doubt that we are all in agreement that there are benefits, but our fear as Nigerians is our lack of being able to control the use. We all agree that there is nothing in this country that has ever been controlled, from our food to water to drugs. We are pharmacists. Majority of us on this call are pharmacists. I don't think there is any item in this country that has been effectively controlled or regulated by our government. I think that is where the fear is, and that is what we should look at. Maybe in the next discussion, we should look at, even if we have to go, how is it possible? Is it possible for it to be regulated in Nigeria? Because I'm over 50 years, and as a pharmacist, I'm over 25 years. I've not seen anything in my pharmacy practice. I've not seen anything, whether in pharmacy or outside pharmacy, that has been effectively regulated in Nigeria. I think that is where the problem is, and that is the area we should actually look at for. So I'm not in support of legalizing it at this stage. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. God bless you, my sister. So let's take a opinion of pharmacist Eniola Akindeko. Please, very short, unmute yourself and lower your hand. And thereafter, I'll take Dr. Wilson Aaron.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm here. I just go to the issue straight away. Let me appreciate the three speakers that we had. I believe that they have done justice to the issue to the extent that understand the matters that have been put to them. Please, are you hearing me? Please, are you hearing me?
Go ahead,
Yes.
go ahead. Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
We can hear you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't agree with these speakers because, to me, I'm sorry to say, I don't believe they have done a lot of
He seems to have lost him.
research into the new far as cannabis is concerned. Of course, they did tell us that cannabis has some benefits, medical benefits, and there are many other benefits. It's used for many other things apart from for medical use. And of course, THC, which is the issue here, is not high in every species of cannabis we have in the world. The problem we are dealing with here is whether it should remain under the Dangerous Drug Act, which makes it an illicit drug, or we should make it licit, in which case we can regulate it, the use. This is the key question here. And of course, a lot of information also have been going on over a long time now, which is that cannabis is the one responsible for most of the psychotic cases we are having around. The truth of the matter, Dr. Adekola dealt with that a little. I have lived more than 90% of my life in Ondo State, and everywhere around me, we see cannabis. The truth of the matter is that to buy cannabis is not something that is difficult. I don't know about other parts of the country, but in Ondo State, in Edo, in these areas where these things are grown, it is readily available, despite the fact that it is said to be an illicit drug. And that means that to a very large extent, as we speak, there is virtually no control. That is what my perception as it is. Because with 200 naira, I can within 5 minutes distance, I can get marijuana to buy. And that is the situation everywhere around here. That means
thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir. What's the last word for us today?
The last word is that if we are talking about legalizing it, it is not supposed to be a free-for-all situation. It is bringing it under some form of regulation where it's going to be used for whatever purpose we have identified it to be useful, to be beneficial for. And in that way, we have identified the fact that regulation is
okay, we lost him. So let's take Dr. Wilson Aaron, please, and please very short. And after
please,
that,
1 minute, 1 minute for each next question. 1 minute.
1 minute. Yes,
please.
So we gotta take the response and last word from the speakers.
Yeah, thank you.
Dr. Wilson Aaron, please lower your hand, sir.
Yes, I'm trying to so that will not waste that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes,
no problem. No problem.
Yeah, you can hear me, right? Good.
Yes, sir.
Good. My comments, I appreciate the speakers. I'm going to speak to perspective one as a pharmacognosist. And as a pharmacognosist, I think that
very short, sir.
We should know that cannabis can be crossbred to produce specific characteristics. And globally, there are about 700 strains of cannabis. And consequently, whatever cannabis that exists in this country, there are chemical varieties who can actually produce what we want. That is scientifically, one hand. As a professor of pharmacy administration, I want to look at this on the cost and benefit basis. Looking at cost and benefit of legalizing cannabis, I tend to agree with all that have been said, that we need to have to put rational and effective policies in place to precede the legalization of cannabis. And I also want us to know the oil does not only contain, even the oil that has been referred, does not only contain CBD, it has other constituencies as well. And it's not necessarily the history of lunacy that determines the effect of cannabis, because I grew up in the same environment, and where I grew up, in the 60s, we saw people who traded in this, and we saw cases of very bad cases. So I think we should just be sure that we have the structures in place before we go on. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. I appreciate you. We'll reach out to you for more information. Sorry that the time is short. Let me quickly take Pharmacist Babalola Taiwo, whose hand is raised electronically and physically. Please, very short. I see you actively agitating. Then after that, we'll take the last question from our National Treasurer, Pharmacist Gafar Maden. And then we'll have the final words from the speakers. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry. I have a few more hands we won't be able to take. Please put your question on the platform. Yes, I said Pharmacist Babalola, right? Yes. You have the floor. Hello. Hello, sir.
BOT, kindly unmute yourself.
I unmuted myself.
Okay.
Hello, are you hearing me now?
We can hear you.
Yes.
Yeah. This is supposed to be a debate, and at the end of the day, it is not actually a debate. It seems as if we have come with a mindset that cannabis is bad. No, we have to look at the other side of it. So some of us, we look at it that we are a group of scientists. We should not see anything so difficult for us. Once we have identified the problems, let us sit down, either set up a committee to look into how it can be.
We are losing you, sir.
Effectively control.
Hello? We've lost him. Can I have
Hello? I'm here. I'm back.
All right, please round up.
I'm back. I want us to know that if it is medicinally legalized, it is going to be under the control of pharmacists. So we should not, at this point in time, this debate will continue. We don't know what will happen in future. What if some policymakers, the politicians, they get across? Hello, are you hearing me? Are you hearing me?
We're hearing you very well.
Yeah. If some set of politicians, they should come up tomorrow. And already we have seen that we have condemned it and we have relegated ourselves. And other groups of people, they come up tomorrow and they take it to the challenge up and they proceed with it. And at the end of the day, our group will start to complain that we have been relegated. Let us set up a committee to look into the problems of cannabis, how we can control it effectively. It's not legalization for recreational use. It's legalization for medicinal use. That medicinal aspect of it is our own concern. Not that the government will just say, you take cannabis to all over in the open market and be selling it. No, it is about this medicinal use of, as of today, what do you call it, CBD oil is even being sold by non-pharmacists. They make it as a networking marketing. It's not in the hands of, and they get it from somewhere. So we should look at it scientifically. What can we do? How can we control it? Because so good, we have many legal luminaries amongst us, pharmacists. They can sit down, they can form a committee. As scientists, we should not see it as being too difficult to surmount. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you for your contribution. That is very true. There are two sides to a coin in any situation. Yes, the pros and cons will be weighed and will be presented. Thank you so much, Mrs. Babalola. So let's have our National Treasurer, Gafar Madeng. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Mrs. Akinere. And I want to appreciate the presenters and those that have reacted. Everybody has made very good points. My own concern is based on a report, I once read, from, United States Food and Drug Administration. And, some years back, and it's when they were thinking of changing strategies, because it was discovered that when you put legislation in place to ban the circulation of some drugs, it only end up creating cartels. It doesn't reduce the amount of end users. It does not reduce it. It only end up in creating cartels and making people making illicit money out of this. So, and now they're now thinking of changing strategies to really go to the educating the users. That is addiction prevention now. And that was the origin of the creation of addiction prevention curriculum, so that, all right, sir. So that is one aspect. So now, my concern is banning cannabis does it reduce the use? Because does it effectively reduce the use? So if it doesn't reduce the use, then we need to really now rethink that, okay, what is the best approach in terms of cost benefits? If banning it is not reducing the use, then why don't we look at another way of, okay, how do we control, the cultivation? That's my own view. Because banning it has not reduced the use. The use has always been there, and it will never reduce the use.
Yes,
if it is banned. So that's my own point. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
We appreciate. There are two people that must absolutely talk. Please, we have Professor Peace Babalola on the platform. She's raised her hand. And then I'm going to also take Christopher Ubu, and we call it a day. Please, I apologize, but these two people have to talk. And please, ma'am, please unmute yourself. Professor Peace Babalola, please, we have you on the platform.
And thank you much. I know I raised my hand late. I was more or less listening and taking notes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Very well, I saw your hand.
Yes. I've been commenting on the chat box, but when someone said, okay, there should be a committee, and I just wanted to say, look, you have enriched that committee. PSN has set up a committee, and they actually called it a research group. Not that we're going to do research, but we should give them a report in 2 weeks. So maybe the report will include research. And I want to appreciate all the people that have spoken and all those that have made comments, and just feel like saying, if it's possible for us, our team set up by PSN, which I chair by the grace of God, to collaborate with this group, and we do more. I think we should do more debate on this, maybe a real debate now on this, and so that we can come up with what can help us and help our people in Nigeria. As the chairman, I cannot take a position on this, but I think we can collaborate with this group that has organized this, and I think we should hold another one very soon and probably invite more stakeholders so that we can get appropriate information, and so that the pharmacists can also guide in this respect. I call it informed, not informed concept, but informed dissemination of information that can help our populace. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Chinedu Babalola. Yes, please hold on 1 second. I know that Ondo State also did a conference, and this topic was also frontliner as a debate, and we cannot exhaust it, but we're continuing to discuss it, and then we're going to get a position paper that speaks the mind of Nigeria, pharmacists and professionals on the issue. So please let me have I thank everybody that has spoken. All your points are valid, and we appreciate you. The last person to discuss today will be, who did I mention now? Pharmacist Christopher.
Christopher.
Please, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you,
yes,
my professional colleague. Yes, hello, I hope you can hear me.
We are hearing you.
Hello.
Very well, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, my professional colleagues.
Very well, very well.
Yes, I'm privileged to be in your midst, and at least among our colleagues, and I want to speak as an addiction professional and a pharmacist working with a mental institution, a federal neuropsychiatric hospital, to be precise. And I want to be emphatic on this issue in the sense that I listen to our presenters. They did us very, very proud. But emphatically, what Professor Chinedu mentioned, he was asking about cannabis. Asking, is it Nigeria cannabis we are talking of, or which other cannabis?
That's the issue.
So and
that's the issue.
So when we at mental, I must speak precisely of neuropsychiatric to Yaba, because the major problem we're having is that the level of THC in the cannabis, in other ones, which other most of our clients have used, when they come back to Nigeria and they use Nigeria own, the level of psychosis they do develop, and come to Yaba and see the level of overwhelmness we are having. we're having an issue of controlling the youths. They are getting down below the age of 15. Let me talk about it. So on that ground, where in as much as you want to talk about legalizing cannabis, we have to do thoroughly on the ground. What are we really going to do? That's the question. Which other cannabis, which level, and on what aspect are you trying to do? Yes, cannabis is readily available, and that's the major problem where our people are having. Because even with the list of 10 naira or thereabout, least amount of money, you can get it close by, even within us in Yaba. But we are talking about how can we, on that ground, ensure that we, even if it's going to be legalized, be controlled, and then ensuring that the appropriate one, like every other medicine, we are not ruling out cannabis to be a medical product, but are we ready to regulate to ensure that we give us a potential medicinal use, or is it a recreational use? So I remember that on this team, even the legal people that are on the in our, let us ensure that we get us prepared properly. And even if they are going to legalize it or whatever, and properly informed and properly involved in what we are doing, let me not take much of your time. Thank you very much for the opportunity given to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody that has spoken. I took so many of you. I think maybe one or two I omitted. I apologize. It is not intentional. We've gone past the time. We will now have, I thank everybody that has spoken. All your points are valued. We'll reach out to some of you after the discussion for more information. Please, let's have the speakers just comment and give us a last word on in each of their own perspective. Thank you so much. I can start with Professor Ray Ozolua, who was the first one that talked. Let's have your last word on the issue.
Thank you very much, madam. Can you hear me clearly, everyone?
We are hearing you, Professor Ozolua.
Hello?
We can. We are hearing you, Professor Ozolua.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we are hearing you.
Yes, we can hear you, sir. Very much. Yes.
Okay, thank you. If you can hear me, yes. Well, let me once again thank the organizers of this debate. To me, it is a debate. I do not think that they set out looking for people with same mindset. It just turned out by sheer coincidence that the three of us who spoke in one direction. And people have ventilated the issues from different angles. So it is indeed a debate. The mere fact that some persons are dissenting makes it even a more robust debate. And it seems to me that it's something we can carry forward. Now, I've been able to sift out certain things. I do not think that anybody is opposed to legalizing cannabis-based drugs if they meet the criteria for importation or processing or manufacturing in Nigeria. I do not think any of us who has spoken is against that. What we're talking about is, we say the plant cannabis, you want to legalize it. They legalize the distribution, the cultivation, and all of that. We know that our structures, as we speak now, they are not strong enough. We've not been able to enforce any law. I mean, how then do we want to add something else? That's the issue. So for me, legalizing cannabis as a plant, whether it has low THC or it has no THC at all, it is just out of the question. That is my take. The products arising from cannabis, very well. They can go through the mill. NAFDAC can go through, I see whether NAFDAC will register them, whether the Federal Minister will be acceptable to the Federal Minister of Health, and they are brought in. And I insist, we have so many medicinal plants in Nigeria that have been thoroughly researched. We can look in this direction. And then the last thing to say, man, somebody said, oh, well, if banning has not reduced the use, why do we still have to keep banning it? We can as well ask the person who asked that question. If banning has not reduced the use, what will legalizing it lead to? You say, okay, everybody goes to church. In spite of the number of Christians and all of that, there is crime. What if there were no churches? That is the other side of it. So I want to conclude, and if the organizers permit, I would like to make my thoughts available to the platforms, and then it can be read, because some of the questions that I have read from the platform, it seems clear that some persons actually didn't listen, or maybe network failure or so they didn't understand some of the arguments that I put forward. Thank you very much once again, and God bless every one of us.
We appreciate you. Thank you so much, Professor Ray. You really put out a very extensive presentation earlier. We will definitely reach out and we'll collect everything, and everything will be communicated to everybody.
Permit me to add.
So please.
Permit me to add that one Professor Hope Obianwu is a Nigeria-based researcher on cannabis. So it's not true to say that, look, I mean, people haven't been working on cannabis in Nigeria. Professor Hope Obianwu has a lot to say on cannabis.
Yes.
He's a pharmacist. We can reach out to him as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I know that was brought out by somebody. I appreciate your remembering to respond. Please let me now have the last word from Dr. Chiedu Modi. No, actually, Dr. Noel Wanang was the next speaker. Is your last word, Noel Wanang, your last response on the issue? And then the last but not the least will be Dr. Chiedu Modi.
Let's have a Pharmacist Modi. I think Professor Noel Wanang is having a connection issue. So Pharmacist Modi, you can make your position.
Okay.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I want to underscore what Ray has said. Professor Obianwu has done great work in cannabis. That is why when some people came to say that no work has been done, it is just preposterous. He has done a lot of work, and I will recommend him to the PSN if they are pushing this matter forward. So that is for that. The topic for discussion is not whether there are good things from cannabis. The issue is legalizing cannabis. And what comes to mind is legalizing the cannabis in Ondo, legalizing the cannabis in Sapele, or legalizing the cannabis in Edo State. That is the issue. So that I say, please, it is a no-go area because it is legal. It sticks to the cannabis brain receptor permanently, and it is irreversible. 3 of us were not selected to have the same opinion. In fact, since I discovered that Professor Ray Ozuola is going to debate to talk on this issue, I think he has been avoiding me, and I want to tell him that I have made conscious efforts to avoid him. And we came up with the same opinion. Well, it's just such a coincidence. And for those who think that they're legalizing, they want to legalize cannabis for medicinal research, please, cannabis is available for medicinal research for all sorts approved within 24 hours. If it's not approved, ask Professor Obianwu how he gets the approval for his own cannabis. People shouldn't come with mindset. Well, for those who sell cannabis and they are not psychotic, I will tell you that in those states, those who send children for prostitution, their children are not prostitutes. Thank you.
Well, it
Thank
seems
you so much, sir. We appreciate you. Do we have?
It seems Professor
available now.
It seems he's off the call, and basically, I think the position of the 2 speakers can suffice for his position. Well, the 2 speakers have actually positioned themselves and what they have spoken about, and I think we have a lot of things to take home from there. So we can call right now on the pharmacist Richard Ladapo for the vote of thanks and for us to round up this call. From Pharmacist Ladapo, Richard, you are welcome to the call. Pharmacist Ladapo, Richard.
Sorry, I didn't know my phone was still on mute.
Okay.
I want to thank you, my chairman. I want to use this opportunity to thank everyone that has been part of this program. The topic is a debate. Is a hot. Hello.
Hello. I think you are echoing. Yeah.
Yes, that's why I'm surprised. I don't have any other device. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we are hearing you.
Yes.
Okay. The topic is a very controversial one, and fortunately, unfortunately, our three speakers for today seems to have aligned in one direction, and so people think that maybe it was planned. No, I don't think so, and I think we'll probably have a second discussion on this in future, and try to get people with divergent views. But all in all, I would like to thank the speakers because they have done justice from their own research, and everyone too that has been part of it, from the professors we have people from virtually every state in Nigeria, people from outside the country. I would like to thank Professor Babalola, the current Vice Chancellor of Queensland University, for being part of it. One of our respondents, the chairman of the National Association of Community Pharmacists, Dr. Sam, thank you for coming. I would like to thank you from the Pharmacists Council of Nigeria. I saw Dr. Ametu from NAFDAC. Different people came on board, and we have lots of interesting people that came to speak. At this juncture, I would like to thank everyone that despite the fact that we spent too much, a long time in this program, people still stay. As at now on this platform, we still have about 138 people at call. So I would thank everybody that has come, the speakers from Professor Reozolua, Pharmacist Chiduomodi, and Professor Wanang for their exposition to us. Many of us have had more understanding as to the product and so what we want to do and all that. And so I say, everybody, thank you for coming. And we wish you to have a nice weekend. And as we go on, let us do our research, just think more on it and see what we can do on this particular topic. Until we come your way next month for another topic, we say bye-bye to you and thank you for coming.
Well, thank you very much, Pharmacist Richard. There is one person I want to talk. There's one person from a substance abuse sector, Nonso Maduka. Let's hear you 1 minute before we end this talk. Nonso Maduka.
Can you please mute everybody?
Nonso Maduka, unmute, and let's have you in 1 minute. I've been having so much from you at the end. Now, Somaduka, I think it seems she left. Anyway, just like
I think he's back.
Okay, no, so.
Yeah, I think he's back.
Are you sure he's back?
I'm hearing somebody in the background.
Maduka, no, she's not. Not there. It's not there.
Well, confidence would have loved it on this matter. At least I was raising my hand even before Q&A.
Okay, you want something to say? Okay, 1 minute.
Yes, please. Okay, Mwachuku Confidence from Delta State, and my deep regards to Dr. Ray, Professor. He was my lecturer in school then, and I really appreciate his contribution. However, I totally disagree that there has been a debate, because when debating something like this, we have to talk about benefit versus risk, and debunking some things. Psychosis in cannabis usually occurs when cannabis use is started early. That's from childhood. You know, adults, however, show different outcome to cannabis use when started as an adult. Actually, its use. And CBD currently is sold in Nigeria. You understand? So I think using CBD, legalizing or growing cannabis for CBD production should be something that we should look into, because you know it's already making money in Nigeria. A lot of people are selling this. You know, so its legalization should not be just for recreational use, but also for its medicinal use and also industrial use, because cannabis, a species of cannabis is used as a fire retardant. You understand? If you mix it with your cement or your block and use it for your house in a fire emergency, you know, it will not catch fire because it's a retardant, fire retardant. So all these things.
Okay. Thank you very much, Confidence. I think you have made your very good points. Just like we have been told, this is a continuous discussion. It will not end here. So we believe strongly as we come your way again, you'll be able to pick some of this information. And now Somaduka is back. 1 minute, because I saw that there was major push that you have something to say and you are from substance abuse sector. Please, 1 minute, now Somaduka, unmute yourself and just talk to us in 1 minute so that we can run up. Now Somaduka.
So I don't, maybe you can't unmute yourself. Did you mute all of them? Maybe she's muting.
Well, in the absence of any other thing, I think it's a nice time to end this call. And I believe strongly we cannot exhaust the opportunity we have in our hand. And with, just like Professor Peace Babalala has also given an opinion, we'll be glad to work with the committee in ensuring that we'll be able to put these debates in a greater scale. Thank you all, and we have a lovely weekend. Enjoy yourself and have a very wonderful time. Thank you. When we call again, we expect to see you again. Thank you very much for being with us. Have a wonderful evening. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. God bless you. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. We enjoyed everything.
Thank
we
you,
appreciate
everybody.
it.
Thank you.
The discussion is ongoing.
Father's Day.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you.